morning. I have Dave and Aaron, and we are talking about sharing passwords. So, before I do, get on our newsletter because I have lots of articles I've shared in the past on our newsletter about managing your passwords and all that kind of stuff. And we've talked about it before. Maybe in my next newsletter, I'll put some links in there so you could rewatch some of them. But should you ever...
Before you jump into that real quick,
yeah.
I just want to make a real quick point on the newsletter. I think people hear newsletter, they think of like library tome, encyclopedia, large, no pictures. The DS Tech newsletter is not like that. It's like a one page with a few paragraphs.
Yeah.
So
it's like usually like 3 articles. It's like 3 tips. And if you're interested in one of the tips, then you just go click on it to read the blog post.
Yeah.
It's just like that.
And they're all super cool.
And it's only once a week too. So if you're worried about me, I have another newsletter that I email every day, but this one gets emailed once a week, usually on Wednesday, so I can tell you what the topic will be on Thursday. So that's usually the plan.
Awesome.
So let's talk about this. Should you ever share your password?
I'm gonna paraphrase an old line I used to use, and it's the 3 rules for sharing a password are: never share your password, never share your password, and even when you have a good reason to and you trust who you're sharing your password with, never share your password. And it's kind of a joke, but it's just to drive home the point that you can, but you need to be very, very careful and considerate before you share a password.
Yes. I found an article that actually said, here are 7 reasons to not share your password. So number 1 was password reuse. So why would that be a reason, Dave or Aaron, whoever wants to chime in?
It's probably the biggest culprit, no doubt, is we get stuck in this cycle of keep reusing the same passwords over and over again, and next thing you know, our Amazon password's the same as our bank account password, the same as our work login password, and if one hacker gets it, it's compromised across the board.
Yes. And if you share it with somebody and maybe you think you trust the person, but the person might, I don't know, for some reason get mad at you and try to use your password everywhere, right? You never know. Number 2 is privileged credentials misuse. And what we're talking about there, I think, is administrative passwords and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Right. And this is in a domain environment, like in a work environment where you have a server out there and you have, sorry, let me shut that off quick. You have data files out on a network in your building, and you think about it, you have information that's only for payroll department, human resources, accounting, sales, et cetera, and then general public. If you give someone your credentials, your password, and you are a higher user like a domain admin, you have access to everything.
Yeah.
If you give someone credentials and say, yeah, sure, you can go into the sales folder and look and see what, how much sales Bob had last month or whatever. Well, they can go into HR and payroll and everything else that they might not belong or should be allowed into. So that's what that's talking about. Not so much like a home user.
I've got another example too that we can use in that scenario, and it's something I see here at DS Tech. We've got a handful of techs that log into our systems that we manage, and each of those techs has their own login and password. Now, if we ever needed to go back and say, look at an audit or kind of figure out who had made changes to the systems over time, and we're sharing our credentials, well, that audit trail is going to come up as just one person, over that period of time has been making those changes, when in fact it could be multiple different hands involved with any kind of changes, and then that tracking would be more valuable to figure out who left off where. So,
That's a good
Exactly.
point. That's a good
There's-
point.
Those things are logged, right?
Yeah.
Who logged into this server at this time?
Yeah.
If you give your credentials to someone and they log in and do something bad, it's going to look like you logged in.
Exactly.
Good point, Aaron.
So number third reason is stored information. So I can think of a perfect example of that. Personal, when we save our passwords in our browser, and that is under our account, like our Google account, right? So if I shared a password that had the same password as my Google account, they would actually have access to every password, right?
Every account.
Yeah. Or even a password manager, that if we had the same password there.
Right.
Okay.
So it's very important if you have a password manager to make sure that the computer you use it on, you have a username and password, a good username and password on to keep people from, just walking by and seeing your computer, and and this is applies to home users a lot here as well.
Yeah. Number 4 is single sign-on.
Yep.
So again, if you have that password, you have access to everything that person signs into. And that's more of a business one, because a lot of times they'll enable single sign-on to make it more convenient for employees to log in. Bring
so
your
I log
own
into something and I can get access to all the different accounts.
Yeah.
Typically though, like certainly in here at DS Tech, we have, this is our the two-factor authentication. You log in and you need a push sent to your phone. So that's a pretty secure single sign-on. I can't give you my username and password and where there's a single sign-on instance, and the push is going to come to my phone, and if I don't remember that I gave you rights to it, you are not going to get in.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And speaking of phones, we all bring our phones to work, right?
Number 5.
Number 5, bring your own device. So what's the point there? Unfortunately, if you allow your employees to bring mobile devices,
What happens to that device when you're not at work or someone else has access to that device?
yeah, if you're logging into stuff using that device.
Right.
Correct? Okay. Number 6 is cloud computing. Okay, I think we're kind of repeating the same thing here, right?
Yeah, kind of.
It's like once you have a password, if it's stolen, that shared password can give access to everything on the cloud too, if it's the same password, right? Again.
Yeah, we've talked about this many times.
Many times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And number 7 is network security. So
can I go back to
Same
number
deal.
6 quickly?
absolutely, go for it.
One of the things that they also mentioned briefly there, out of that 80% of these 12,000 cloud services allow weak passwords. That's a huge part of security, is making sure that people have to use strong passwords, complex, long characters, numbers, memes,
Yeah.
TikTok videos.
Not to strike the fear of God into anybody, but I think the day is coming soon where password policy is going to be a requirement for all businesses. If you get a job at wherever and you need to access any kind of systems that they require, you're going to have a password policy, and it's probably going to have multi-factor.
Yep.
And it's not for you, it's for the business and to protect their butt when the legal stuff comes down.
Because dog's name 1234 is not a strong password.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to be,
What was that meme that I shared a while back? Is it whatever his name was? Steve 123123 or something like that? Not a secure password. Okay, so let's say, and we talked about this before we were live, but there are some situations where you do need to share your password.
Yeah.
So in those cases, how and what's the best way? And when I was reading up on this a little bit, any way that's not encrypted, you shouldn't do, right? And that includes text messaging, email, messenger apps, right? Because what? Hackers can just grab that data
Possibly, yeah.
right?
Right.
Okay. So how do you securely share a password?
Well, there's a couple of things here they talk about. Password manager. You talked about using LastPass, I believe.
Yeah, we have a LastPass account, and it's multi-factor authentication. So, but when if I'm not going to be here and I like for a week's vacation, right? Our business just doesn't come to a halt. People still have to order equipment and tools. So I share my logins to our vendors so that with certain people that have been trained to order stuff, right? So I share that in our LastPass account.
Yep.
So it's a password safe, right? It's a place where all your passwords are kept for your company. The other one they talked about too, Dave, was cloud storage.
Right. It's a secure. This one they called is NordLocker. Encrypted cloud storage. Importantly, so
We
you want
have
to make sure you have an encrypted cloud storage.
we have one with our big vendor, right? The Continuum IT glue thing. Similar?
Sure.
Yes.
Because we give rights. But we give rights to that to people in our businesses, our business customers.
Right.
Some of them have rights to go in and look at their accounts, not everyone's.
Right.
So,
right.
And I don't know, maybe we touched upon it, but I don't think any tech is going to ask anybody for a password, to be honest. At least I don't recall asking for people's passwords. And a lot of the support that, I've done over the years has been a lot of screen sharing, remote type support where I don't
True.
need that information. They can log in themselves and I can get into, or I think of one of our phone systems that we offer. I can, the word is called masquerade. I can masquerade as any of my end users and make changes, without having to log in.
True.
Use their
But
passwords and things like
there
that.
are instances where you would want a user's password as a tech to try and duplicate a problem on, say, your computer. It's not common, but it.
Okay.
I actually, when we have people switch their Microsoft 365 accounts to us, I need the administrator password so that I can enable it with our account. Once I have that, then DS Tech has an administrator account that we use.
Right.
So we don't use it anymore, but so then the person can change their password. Steve mentioned to us before we went live that he uses something to share a password that he's created. It's called Password Push. So
Do you have a screenshot?
I have a link. Should I put it in the chat?
Yeah, if you want.
If I want. Let's see.
But this goes back to like you just talked about securely sharing a password. This is another method of doing that. When we create accounts for users, then we have to get them that username. A lot of times the company will dictate the username, or they'll have a protocol for, first initial last name at company.com. That'll dictate the username, and then the password will be sent out. And I believe Steve sets it up so here's your password, log in, and as soon as you log in, it requires
change
you
it.
to change it. Yeah.
Yes, that's
So
common. So I put the link in our in the chat on YouTube and Facebook and in our private chat here. But if you click on it, I like the top. It says, "Go ahead, email another password." So.
and it looks very simple. I've never used it, but if you look at the page,
No.
it looks very simple to use.
Yeah, it does. So cool beans. Never share your password.
That's my rule.
That's the
When you have to.
big rule. Only when you have to, right?
Unless it's one of your family members' Netflix account, then you.
That might have been the one. That might have been the one that I found because when I Google searched, Google gives you like it says other people have searched this, and it says, "Is password sharing legal?" And I think it was a Netflix account that they were talking about. No, it's not legal in Tennessee or something. It's like, I think that's not legal anywhere as far as Netflix goes.
That's just like a challenge for people to overcome that, right? To defeat that.
It's $8 a month. Big deal. A lot less than $100 a month like we used to pay.
Yeah.
So
I'm telling you though, you got to come next week for our sock guru.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Next week we're kind of excited about it. We have, what's SOC stand for again? Security Operations Center.
Yep.
Right? Anyway, he is going to be our guest next week, and we have a list of questions for him, and you're going to learn a ton.
Right. About our main malware tool is called Sentinel-1.
Yeah.
And going to find out how awesome and powerful of a tool it is.
It is. I'm kind of excited. I'm going to learn some stuff because there's a bunch of stuff in there. I was like, what is that? So it'll be really interesting.
Hopefully we won't get too geeky on you.
Yeah. I'll try to keep him and you guys from getting geeky, you know.
Yeah, I've tried to explain it to some of our customers, and I catch myself like digging too deep there. And, you know, they have no clue what threads in a processor
You can tell because the eyes get kind of like blank.
or you get no response.
And shiny.
Or you get nothing from them on the phone. You can hear them blink, blink, blinking.
Yeah. Okay. Totally tuned you out now.
Yep.
Anyway, so mark your calendars for next week, 11 a.m. right here. All right.
September.
If you get on our newsletter, you'll get a reminder.
November 3rd, I should say.
Yeah. I don't even know what the date will be. I'm assuming you looked at your calendar.
The 3rd, yes. I think.
No, the 4th. Yep. November 4th is Thursday.
4th. You see, I was off yesterday.
You lost a day.
I don't know what it is.
All right. So next week, come see our SOC guru. We're going to be asking him questions and picking his brain. So it would be really interesting. All right. Don't share your passwords. Get on our newsletter. Have a great day.
Happy Halloween.
Oh, yeah. Happy Halloween.